This is Seventh Generation Warfare. I'm your current host, John Nelson. This video is just a short list of some questions you might want to ask yourself before making major decisions that affect your family and, potentially multiple generations of your family. I'm talking decisions like where to live, what kind of jobs to have, perhaps parenting strategies, things of that nature. So, since seventh generation warfare is about honoring your ancestors as well as serving your descendants, one of the first questions you have to ask yourself is what do your elders think? If your elders are still alive, then seek their counsel. Um, doesn't mean you have to listen to them by any means, but ask them the question would be respect enough. If they aren't alive, then you'll have to do your best to reflect on what they might think of it, um, and that's okay too. You can have conversations with the ghosts of family past. With that being said, you have to weigh whether the perspective of your elders is useful, practical, or applicable to the current situation. Sometimes, and this should be getting better as more generations get on with seventh generation warfare, but if you're like me, some of your elders might not be the best at articulating why they have a certain perspective. So you might have to try and draw that out of them. They might have their gut might answer for them, but they might not be able to articulate it with their mind in a clear way that is objective and gets communicated to. So even if you just think that something's a gut reaction from them, doesn't mean that it should just be discarded. Try to dig down and see why. They're going to have 20 plus more years of living experience than you are, and so don't discount that. They've seen a lot more, whether or not you realize they've seen a lot more. So that's asking what your descendants might think of it. If you have, you also have to go the other way. You have to ask or that was what asking your ancestors. You have to ask your descendants, primarily your children, but perhaps your children aren't old enough to really articulate their feelings and thoughts. They're not going to have complex thoughts on complex issues if they're young, and it's all going to be age appropriate. But even if you have toddlers, you have to consider what they might think about your decisions when they're older. If you say, for instance, you're going to move, really consider the impact of how that might impact their life. I mean, maybe they're going to hold it against you that they had a great several great friends and you destroyed their relationships by moving. It's not to say that relationships can't be lost in that manner, but you should be considering those things. Or certainly when it comes to parenting strategies, are the things you're doing to your children fair and just? Or do they have a good claim against you when they're older that you were abusive to them in some sort of way? Does the decision that you're going to make meet your ethical or moral standards or position? As a seventh generation warfare fighter, you should have a pretty concrete ethical code that you follow. Ethics is a hard thing to nail down. Some people turn to religious books, and so that's going to be perhaps the most concrete that anyone can get. But if they're just dedicated to what it says in the book, but throughout the course of one's life, one's ethical positions might change. The point here being is that they should not change for a specific decision, or they should not change when it suits you to change them. If you're going to make a decision, your conscience in the moment should be on board with that decision. Don't override your conscience and then force your conscience to adapt to what decision you're making. In the same line of thinking, but without the moral connotation, is the decision that you're seeking to make, is it a break from the status quo? So it might not be an ethical question, but there could be a cultural or a traditional practice. If you're breaking from it, you need to consider that, and you should have some sort of justification for why you're breaking from the status quo. And lastly, one more question to ask yourself is the decision you're seeking to make, is it for benefit for yourself, or is it for benefit for your family? So I think as you get further into your 7th generation warfare mindset, your individual interests become less and less significant, or your individual interests take more of a back seat, and you really start to put your family front and center. So that will become a less and less of an issue, but it's still worth checking in on why you want to do something. So that was just a few questions to ask yourself before you make big decisions that affect your family. And I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments if you got any big decisions coming up in your life that you need to ask yourself these questions in order to make a wise one for your family. So like, subscribe, share, etc. Thanks.